My mother-in-law stole our pregnancy reveal, so I ruined her retirement party. My mother-in-law, Helen, always had a flair for the dramatic. But when she decided my pregnancy announcement was her personal moment to shine, she fundamentally misunderstood who she was dealing with. So, I decided her grand retirement party, the one celebrating her 40 years of corporate glory in front of hundreds of her most respected friends and colleagues, was the absolutely perfect stage to return the favor. She wanted the spotlight so desperately, and trust me, by the time I was finished with my tribute, she was caught in it like a deer in headlights. Here's the story of how a stolen moment of joy led to the most spectacular and public downfall every couple who wants kids dreams about the moment they'll finally get to announce it. For my husband, Mark, and me, this wasn't just a dream, it was an obsession we'd held on to for years. Our journey to parenthood was a brutal, soul-crushing marathon of infertility. It was a blur of sterile doctors' offices, timed injections, crushing disappointments, and the kind of quiet grief that settles deep in your bones. It strained our finances, our schedules, and at times, our sanity. So when, after all that heartache, I finally saw those two impossible pink lines on a test, it felt like more than just good news, it felt like a cosmic miracle. We were floating, just absolutely over the moon, and we wanted to share our happiness in a way that felt sacred and, most importantly, ours. We meticulously planned a beautiful, intimate gender reveal party. We invited only our absolute closest friends and family, the people who had held our hands through the darkest moments. We envisioned a day filled with pure, unadulterated joy. We ordered a special cake, we bought adorable, custom-printed onesies, one pink, one blue, to give to the new grandparents. It was all mapped out, a perfect day to celebrate the life we had fought so hard for. But my mother-in-law, Helen, operates in a universe where she is the sun, and everyone else is just a planet orbiting her. She has a PhD in making every single situation, no matter how disconnected from her, entirely about herself. We knew she could be, a lot. We'd seen her rearrange seating charts at weddings to be closer to the head table and heard her give louder, more effusive compliments to the chef at someone else's birthday dinner than to the person of honor. But we had no idea she was about to weaponize her narcissism and turn our long-awaited dream into an absolute nightmare. And hey, if you're new to this channel and you love a story where justice isn't just served but delivered on a silver platter, you're definitely going to want to subscribe, because the karma in this one is a doozy. In the weeks leading up to the party, Mark and I were crystal clear with our immediate families. We sat them down individually. When we told Helen, we explicitly said, "We are telling you this in strict confidence. We are going to announce the pregnancy and the gender together at the party. It is incredibly important to us that we get to see everyone's reactions at the same time. Please, do not tell a soul." It was one simple, straightforward request. You'd think that would be easy enough for a future grandmother to honor, right? You would be wrong. So very wrong. The day of the party was perfect. The sun was shining, our backyard was filled with the laughter of our dearest friends, and my family had made the 3-hour drive to be there. The air was electric with anticipation. Mark was grilling burgers, I was floating around talking to everyone, my hand instinctively resting on my still flat stomach, guarding our precious secret. We were just moments away from the big reveal. The cake, with its secret pink or blue interior, was on the table. Mark and I stood together, knife in hand, ready to make the first cut. And that's when the back gate swung open with a dramatic flourish. And in walks Helen. She wasn't just late, she was making an entrance. A grand, show-stopping, record-scratch entrance. She was wearing a floor-length, billowy white dress made of lace. It was, unmistakably, a maternity dress. And to complete this utterly baffling ensemble, she had a very obvious, very fake pregnancy belly strapped to her torso. She waltzed onto the patio, one hand cradling this prosthetic bump, and bellowed, "Sorry I'm late, everyone. It's just so hard to get around these days. The baby just gets so tired." The entire party went dead silent. The music seemed to fade away. You could have heard a pin drop on the grass. Our friends and family just stared, their smiles frozen and confused. My own mother's jaw was on the floor, she looked like she had just witnessed a UFO landing. Mark and I were paralyzed. We just stood there by the cake, knife still in hand, completely speechless. She had taken a metaphorical grenade, pulled the pin, and tossed it right into the middle of the happiest day of our lives. In the most theatrical, narcissistic way imaginable, she had hijacked our pregnancy announcement and made it about her. Before we could even begin to process the sheer audacity of it, one of her friends, a woman equally devoted to public spectacle, was snapping pictures. And mere minutes later, they were on social media. Helen posted a photo of herself, beaming, caressing her fake belly, with a caption that was so vile, so deliberately cruel, it took my breath away. It read, "So excited to finally announce I'm going to be a grandma. Some people just can't be trusted to carry on the family line, so I guess it's up to me to bring the next generation into the world." She tagged Mark, her beloved son. She did not tag me. It was a vicious, direct, and public shot, not just at me, but at our years of private pain. She was weaponizing our infertility struggles for likes, framing us as incompetent and unworthy. My heart didn't just sink, it felt like it shattered into a million pieces. This wasn't some thoughtless, quirky gaffe from an overexcited grandma. This was calculated. This was hostile. This was cruel. The party fell apart. We never even cut the cake. People, not knowing what to say, started making awkward excuses and leaving. The joyful atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by a thick, heavy cloud of disbelief and second-hand embarrassment. That night, after we'd cleaned up the wreckage of our ruined celebration, Mark called his mother. He was a sight of livid I had never seen before. He told her she had crossed a line that she could never, ever uncross. He told her that her behavior was unforgivable. Her response was textbook narcissism. She immediately played the victim. She burst into theatrical, hysterical tears, wailing that she was just so excited and that we were misinterpreting her pure intentions. Then she had the gall to accuse me of being too sensitive and ungrateful. She even tried to claim she thought we'd find it funny, that it was just a harmless joke. Funny? There was nothing funny about a public mockery of our deepest pain. Mark told her that until she could offer a genuine, sincere apology for what she did, she was not to contact either of us. We thought that might be the end of it. We hoped for some space, some time to heal. But that was just the beginning of Helen's campaign. Her behavior morphed from bizarrely attention-seeking to genuinely frightening. She launched a full-on smear campaign against me. She started posting old, unflattering photos of me on her social media. A picture of me from a college party, holding a red Solo cup, with the caption, "Some people prioritize partying over family. Let's hope she can clean up her act." Another post featured a picture of Mark and me from years ago with the caption, "Be careful who you let into your family. A pretty face can hide a lot of secrets." It was textbook psychological warfare, designed to isolate me and paint her as the concerned matriarch. The final, unforgivable straw came a few weeks later. I was 40 weeks pregnant, swollen, exhausted, and just trying to survive my last few days at my accounting firm before maternity leave. I'm sitting at my desk, trying to focus on a spreadsheet, when I hear a commotion from the lobby. I look up, and my blood runs cold. There's Helen. She is standing in the middle of my professional office building, wearing another fake pregnancy belly, this one even bigger and more absurd than the first. She was loudly telling the security guard that she was there to check on her grandchild because she had reason to believe the mother wasn't mentally stable and she didn't think I was capable of carrying the baby to term. My boss came out of his office. My coworkers were staring. It was the most profound humiliation I have ever experienced. A colleague had to physically escort her out of the building while she was still shouting about her rights as a grandmother. As she was being removed, she managed to snap a picture of me at my desk, visibly pregnant and mortified, and posted it almost instantly. The caption, "Still faking it for attention, I see. Some people have no shame." That night, I showed the post to Mark. I was shaking, not just with anger, but with genuine fear. This had moved beyond a family squabble. This was harassment. This woman was unhinged. What would you have done? Would you have tried to reason with her? Because we were done with reason. We blocked her on every phone number and social media platform. The next day, we went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. We decided, then and there, she would have no part in our child's life. It was a brutal, heartbreaking decision to cut a mother out of her son's life, but she had given us no other choice. She was a danger to our peace and our safety. A few months of blessed silence went by. Our beautiful, perfect baby girl, Lily, was born. We were submerged in that wonderful, exhausting newborn bubble. And for the first time in a long time, we felt peace. We hadn't heard a peep from Helen. Then, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrived in the mail. It was an invitation to her retirement party. She had been a high-powered executive at a massive corporation for 4 decades, and this was going to be a huge, formal affair celebrating her long and storied career. My first instinct was to throw it in the shredder. But then, as I held the expensive cardstock in my hand, an idea began to form. A cold, clear, and perfectly petty idea. She wanted a big audience? She craved the center of attention? Fine by me. I would give her exactly what she always wanted. The party was held in the grand ballroom of a ridiculously opulent downtown hotel. The room was dripping with chandeliers and filled with hundreds of people in tuxedos and evening gowns, colleagues, industry bigwigs, old friends, and extended family who had only heard her side of the story. Mark and I walked in, dressed to the nines. I was in a sleek, black dress, and he was in his best suit. We looked like a power couple. When Helen saw us walk in, her face went stark white for a second before she plastered on her gracious hostess mask. She probably assumed we were there to grovel, to be the bigger people and quietly celebrate her. She was so wrong. The evening was an endless parade of tributes. One long speech after another, all praising her career, her leadership, her incredible mentorship. Speaker after speaker painted a picture of a compassionate, brilliant, and inspiring woman that neither Mark nor I recognized. It was nauseating. My stomach was in knots, but I sipped my water and kept my expression neutral. I just watched her at the head table, soaking it all in, beaming with a smug little smile on her face. She truly believed she had won, that her narrative was the only one that would ever be told. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the MC took the stage and opened the floor for any last, impromptu tributes. This was it. My heart started pounding. I stood up, and a hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to me. I walked calmly and deliberately to the microphone at the side of the stage. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mark give me a small, firm nod of support. "Good evening, everyone," I started, my voice perfectly clear and steady, ringing through the silent ballroom. "My name is Sarah, and I have the distinct honor of being Helen's daughter-in-law. I've listened to all these wonderful, glowing stories tonight about Helen the executive, Helen the leader, and Helen the mentor. And it's all been so moving. But if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share a quick story about Helen the grandmother." I saw a flash of pure panic in her eyes. Her smile faltered. I kept going. "Just a few months ago, my husband Mark and I were about to announce our long-awaited and hard-fought-for pregnancy at a party for our closest loved ones. It was a deeply personal, sacred, and joyous moment for our family. A moment that Helen decided to steal." I let that sentence hang in the air for a beat. "She arrived at our party wearing a fake pregnancy belly and announced to all our friends and family that she was the one expecting. She then posted photographs on the internet, not only hijacking our joy but publicly mocking our private, painful struggles to have a family." You could hear audible gasps ripple through the crowd. The murmuring started, a low buzz that grew louder as people turned to stare at Helen. Her face had gone from pale to a blotchy, furious red. Her entire carefully constructed image was shattering in real time, in front of everyone who mattered to her. "But it didn't stop there," I said, my voice gaining strength. "Her behavior escalated into a campaign of harassment that included her showing up at my place of work, again wearing a fake pregnancy belly, and loudly accusing me of faking my own pregnancy in front of my colleagues and my boss. Her actions were not just quirky or overexcited. They were cruel. They were malicious. And they were aimed at her own son and his wife during what should have been the happiest and most vulnerable time of our lives." I turned my head and looked directly at her, locking eyes with her across the vast ballroom. "You see, a person's true character isn't defined by their professional successes, which are clearly very impressive. It's defined by how they treat people, especially their family, when they think no one is watching. Or, in this particular case, when they think they can control the entire narrative to make themselves the star of the show." I placed the microphone back on its stand with a soft click. The silence that followed was deafening. Nobody clapped. They just stared, first at me, and then at the woman of the hour, who now looked so small and exposed at the head table. Her boss looked absolutely horrified. Her best friends looked stunned and confused. Mark's father just stared down at his plate. We didn't stick around to watch the rest of the train wreck. Mark stood up, took my hand, and we walked out of that ballroom with our heads held high. The fallout, from what we heard later, was immediate and catastrophic. Mark's dad told us that dozens of people, including some of the keynote speakers, left right after we did. Her best work friend of 20 years, who was supposed to run a loving tribute slideshow, was apparently so disgusted that she just packed up her laptop and walked out. Helen was left utterly humiliated in a half-empty ballroom. Her pristine professional legacy was forever tarnished by the ugly truth of her personal cruelty. In the weeks that followed, the family was fractured, but many people who had been on the fence or had believed Helen's twisted version of events finally saw the truth. They went back and found the nasty social media post she'd conveniently forgotten to delete. Mark's aunt called us, in tears, apologizing for not reaching out sooner. The truth, once it was out, was undeniable. We didn't do it to be hateful. We did it to take back our own story and to draw a permanent line in the sand. She used an audience to humiliate us, so we simply used her audience to tell the truth. It was, in our eyes, the definition of poetic justice. We haven't spoken to or seen her since that night, and our lives are immeasurably more peaceful. Our daughter, Lily, will grow up in a home free of that kind of toxic manipulation. She will grow up knowing that her parents will always stand up for her and for what's right, and that no one on this earth ever has the right to steal her joy. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing, or did I sink to her level and go too far? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of karma being served ice cold, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Also tell us where you are watching from and what time it is in your location.